There is a lot of wonderful history in West Tennessee, and every year Bolivar rolls out the welcome mat for its annual home tour. The tour is conducted by A.P.T.A, the Association for the Preservation of Tennessee Antiquities. The tour raises funds for the upkeep of association properties. Our tour guide this year was Jimmy Stevens.
Well, we're showing the south side of Bolivar right here. Bolivar has 119 buildings on the National Register. The house was erected by John Murray, who was a land speculator. It was bought by Catherine Lee in 1828 and then was purchased by Mr. Bills in 1838. And Mr. Bills started about aggrandizing the house and adding to it. And so it's grown like topsy over the years right here. Mr. Bills was also the financial advisor to President Pope, who was his wife's first cousin. If you notice, it's the first Greek Revival house that was established here in Bolivar with classical orders. Before that, the house faced the back. The city street came into the back of the house, so they changed the direction of the house. And Mr. Bills made it Greek Revival, and he put the columns in here, and they weren't sure about how they went in, so they're upside down if you look at the portico. And the house was to have another two-story wing on the south side. Mr. Bill's wife died, he lost interest, the wall was torn off on the south. They added 4 feet to the 2 bedrooms on the south side, walled it back up, and never erected the two-story wing on the south. And if you notice, they laid out the grounds long before the houses were built. The walk goes to the middle of a house. If you have wings on it, there are too many columns that were ordered, so they have 2 in the center rather than spaced out all the way down. And if they were having had the wing, they would be equally spaced all the way across the front. David Crockett and Adam Huntsman were running for Congress. During this time, the Pillars was owned by John and Catherine Lee. And Mr. Lee was former editor of the Saturday Evening Post, and he moved to Bolivar and established a newspaper. And apparently Crockett and Huntsman were staying with the Lees. And during the middle of the night, Crockett went to Mr. Lee's daughter's room, and she screamed, and he took a wooden leg that belonged to Adam Huntsman and banged it on the floor. Mr. Lee ordered Huntsman out of the house and through his support for Crockett, and this is how Crockett ended up being elected to Congress. At that period of time, everybody in Bolivar thought that they needed a Swedish cook, so they brought them over here to cook their food. Beneath the cook's room is what they call the dairy. That's where they kept the cisterns that they kept the water in to keep the milks and all this cool. When the food was cooked, it was brought from the kitchen through this set of doors underneath the house and was carried to the north side to the original dining room, up the staircase. People at that time thought that the odor of food caused illness, so they wanted to be as far away from the smell of food as they could until they ate the food. Well, this is the Association for the Preservation of Tennessee Antiquities. And it was started to save Bellmead Plantation in Nashville. It's expanded. There are sites all over Tennessee right now. This Bolivar having 2 for a small town, Memphis has 2, and it's an organization to preserve historic sites in Tennessee.